we're back. And one of the observations that we can make when we were doing the Elastic Beanstalk work was that there was just a lot of pointing and clicking in order to configure our environment. So, so if we wanted to go to do something in Elastic Beanstalk, if we want to make a configuration change, we're going in to the environment. We're doing things like going into configuration and making some changes in here, right? So this is how we essentially manage the Elastic Beanstalk deployment or environment. And sort of the new rage here is infrastructure as code. So instead of having to do all this point and click, which is very hard to track what changed and when by who, right? And there's other ways of tracking that, but it's very hard to kind of see what you're doing up front. Instead, we're going to use a different tool that allows us to sort of drive all these changes through essentially what looks like a big configuration file. And so what we're going to be using is something called Cloudformation. And one quick observation here before we get into it. You notice that I already, I didn't actually create this myself. What happened was when we use Elastic Beanstalk, right, under the hood, Elastic Beanstalk is using Cloudformation to manage their infrastructure, right? So as you're clicking on things, they're changing essentially a configuration file, which then actually applies the changes. So we're going to cut out the middleman and just write our own configuration. Okay, so now the cheat here is we're actually going to first do this in Cloudformation, a bit of it, just to get the flavor of Cloudformation. And then we're going to switch over to another tool called Terraform, which is a multi-cloud open source, essentially the same sort of solution that seems to be, in some circles, more popular. And because it's multi-cloud, there's a temptation to use it. So I'm going to actually do only part of this in Cloudformation and then switch gears and do the same thing basically and more in Terraform. So all we're going to do in this video is we're going to quickly look at a configuration that builds sort of the networking, the VPC, the virtual private network components. It's going to build like the VPC, it's going to build some subnets, it's going to build a route table, some ACLs, and then kind of connect them all up to the different subnets, right? And then we'll just leave it at that, and then we'll tear it all out, and we'll do the exact same thing in Terraform in the next video. So let's get to it. Let me close this down. And what we're going to do is first look at the code, which is available in the article. This is essentially the code that was written, right? And I won't say the cheat here, but one of the nice things, at least on Cloudformation, is they have a lot of examples already written. So a lot of this was just cut and paste and then, kind of modified from existing sample code. But generally what the idea here is we're going to basically build out the VPC, give it a certain network, right? And it has 3 subnets, just like the diagram had. It has an internet gateway. We attach the gateway. We create a route table with a route in it. We attach the route to the subnets. Then we create a network ACL. We set up the inbound and outbound rules, and then we attach it to the 3 subnets. So sort of boring code, although it's still kind of long, right? We're already at 235 lines, but the nice thing is it's all well established here. All the naming is all consistent, and we can, then the beauty of this is we'll be able to append to it if we wanted to, and without having to go and do a lot of point and clicking. Okay, so I'm going to close this out, and let's go ahead and deploy this template. So how you do this, you create a stack, and this is new resources. We're going to build a new one. The template is already ready to go, and we're going to specify it. We're going to upload a template, and it'll upload it to an S3 bucket that it'll create and manage. I'm going to choose the file, and just have to find the file. So this is my CloudFront example. Just so you know, the format could be either YML files or JSON. It seems like a lot of the examples I gave are in JSON, so that's why I use JSON. And then I hit next. This template doesn't take any parameters because it pretty much just builds exactly what it builds. I'll have to enter a stack name. I'm going to call this to-dos are us. Next. No tags, no permissions. It's going to run as me essentially, which is admin. And I hit next. And let's see, I think it's going to give me an estimate. Let's see. Right, so right now, so one thing you can do too, I'm not going to do it here because it takes a few minutes, but if I wanted to validate what it was going to do first before I did it, if I hit this create change set, it'll go out and calculate what the changes would be, then kind of gives you kind of a UI of what it's going to do, and then I can say execute, and then it'll actually create the stack. In this case, I've already done this before, so I already kind of know what it's going to do. I kind of talked about it. So I'm just going to create the stack. And what you'll see is it says it's creating in progress, and it's going to do it, right? Now, this may take a few minutes. So I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll come back to this. Once this is done, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, we're back. This actually took about probably less than a minute, actually. So went ahead, you can see that it's completed. I got a status of create complete, right? I can look at the events. I can see all the basically the various tasks or entries it was doing, right? Kind of recording what it did over time. I can see all the resources that it created kind of in a snapshot view here, right? They were all successful. That's pretty much here. Now, one thing we can do just to poke around, we can indeed validate that it did create these things. So these were all VPC resources. So they'll show up here. You'll see that instead of having one VPC, now I have two VPCs, right? This 10.0016. I've got some more subnets than I did before. These 10.0, 10.1, 10.2. I should have another route table. I believe it's this bottom one right here. I've got an internet gateway. And then I think it gave me, I think I also created a security, no, I didn't create a security group. I created a network ACL also, which is here. And this, believe it's this one right here, this one right here has tied with the three subnets directly. So that's pretty much it for creating, right? That was a lot easier to do, to be honest, than trying to do all the clicking. Just the clicking alone would have taken me like 30 minutes or more, and it was probably very error prone. Now, the way we can back all this out, the nice benefit here too is I can go to Cloudformation, and let's say if I made a mistake or just want to back this thing out, actually I should make one comment first. If you want to make an update, I can go update the configuration file. Let's say if I want to add a new subnet or something, right? And then I can go to update and then upload the new file, and then it'll apply the differences, and it'll even tell you what the differences will be, and then you can manage this over time through just applying updates. You could also just delete the stack altogether if you want to completely back out of this, and I want to go ahead and do that. And what that's going to do is it's going to basically undo all the work that it did. So I'm going to pause the video for a minute, and I'll show you what that looks like when we're done. We're back, and yeah, it just took a minute or so, and the delete completed. And I believe if I go back to stacks, the stack itself is now not visible anymore because it's essentially now been backed out. And indeed, if I go back into my VPC, I will observe that I don't have but one VPC now, whereas I had two. Backed out all those resources. So that's really all we were going to cover in this video, and then the next video we're going to do the same thing in Terraform, and we'll do more. Like we'll do the load balancer, the EC2 instance, the whole shebang. And matter of fact, what I'm going to do between now and the next video also is I'm going to just take out the Elastic Beanstalk too, so that we don't have pretty much back to a clean environment with pretty much nothing in it. Thank you.